Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You. And viewers may like to know that as soon as this programme is finished, we'll be going straight over to the BBC newsroom. So we've just been invited to Kate Adie's leaving party, which is a surprise party, incidentally. In the news this week, as the Middle East conflict escalates, animal psychologists report a worrying development at Jerusalem Zoo. 10 miles out from Southampton, the crew of HMS Defiant discover their TVs can only receive BBC Choice. And outside number 10, as the Prime Minister holds an early morning press briefing, Ewan Blair tries to make a discreet return home. On Ian Hislett's team is a Muslim stand-up comic who spent several years studying biochemistry, so no need to send us a thank you note after the show. Shazia Mirza. And with Paul Merton tonight is a journalist and Tory MP who described the Conservatives as the funkiest, most jiving party on earth. Good to have him here tonight, as he obviously doesn't get out much. Boris Johnson. Round one has never exactly set the world alight, unlike the first question. Ian and Shazia.
It's a plane. Some people who might have come out of it.
It's my dad.
Oh, there's my dad. And that's a cricketer.
Not Pakistani.
No.
Too busy fighting for the Taliban.
Yes, I'm glad you said that.
What's Blair's mission been this week?
To be humiliated in as many capital cities as possible. Quite an interesting idea, really, going to Syria to try to get them to join the coalition against terror. Coalition for terror, they join up.
Well, he's been trying to steady the wobblers.
The wobblers?
Right.
There's been some wobbling, which is apparently what happens in the third week of any war. Is that not right, Boris?
There has been a bit of wobbling, yes.
You call them
wobbling, but not in the Spectator, and nor indeed in the ranks of the Conservative Party.
No.
No.
You haven't done a name.
Douglas Smith had a wobble this week.
No, there was the Conservative. Well, the Conservative Party remains foursquare behind the policy of blowing up the Taliban, trying to remove. It's not a frivolous matter, and trying to remove Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda network. I think the question we're asking is simply how are we going to do it. Most people think it's perplexing that we haven't yet ousted the Taliban. They're worried that we're not going to. But the fact is, it's going to be a tough one. We've got to stick with it. So I think a lot of people would agree with that, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's hardly a round of applause, but...
There was more than a smattering.
Applause.
There was 8.
Yeah.
I think for any Tory speech, that counts as a round.
Yes.
I think you put it...
You see, Boris, that's what clapping sounds like.
All right.
And who are the sporting wobblers, then? Andrew Caddick, you noticed.
Robert Croft, is that one?
And what's he refused to do?
Well, they don't want to tour India.
Yes.
Because it's very near Afghanistan.
Yes.
Yeah.
How far exactly?
20 miles?
Is it at the nearest point?
Yes.
600
Really?
miles. Yes. Which, admittedly, it is within the margin of error of the average cruise missile, so... So there have been one or two obstacles to the troops this week. British tanks, for example, some of them have been returned because...
They don't work.
That's right. Wrong kind of sand, apparently.
They did an exercise in the desert, and they calculated beforehand, should we put in these special filters that will make the tanks work? And they thought, no, it'd be expensive. So they didn't. That wasn't really your dad, though, was it?
It looked like my dad. They were discussing the war in Luton.
Yeah.
Is there a new front opened up in Luton?
Yeah.
So which British soldiers have actually crossed the Afghan border this week?
The ones fighting for the Taliban?
That's right, the Muslims.
Do you think this is true? I mean, have you got brothers?
Yeah, 3 brothers. They wouldn't dare fight for the Taliban. But I can imagine there's a lot of Muslims that would want to go and fight for the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Right.
Because they've never been there. I think they prefer Afghanistan to the kibbutz.
Right.
It's a sort of gap year thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it is week 4 of the war on terror, or more particularly the week of the wobble. In an effort to clarify the situation regarding cluster bombs, a special US broadcast assured Afghan civilians all bombs will explode when they hit the ground. But in some circumstances, some of the bombs will not explode. Let's hope it lost something in the translation. Paul and Boris, your questions academic.
OK, this is some university of some kind. That's a river with a punt. Here are some students, presumably, having a good time, drinking nice cold Guinness. That's about it, isn't it?
There's slightly more to it than that.
Really?
Yes.
Is it important?
Not really.
Let's move on, then.
OK. There have been complaints, that's what's important about
Complaints?
it. Yes.
There was a professor who complained that students were drinking too much? You just noticed this, but this is what students do.
Well, and more specifically, there have been excesses of drunken, naked girls running across college lawns.
An excess? How many is too much?
So they're stopping the women from drinking?
It's the women that they're particularly worried about,
Where's
it
that?
seems.
Taliban College, Cambridge?
St Cat's, Cambridge, yes.
Is
That's
that
right.
its name, St Cat's?
St Catherine's.
Oh, I see. It's one of those shorthand things, is it? Like Maudlin.
In fact, the Daily Mail showed us some students having a rip-roaring time.
Oh, they're so pissed you can't see their faces. They've gone all blurry.
They're pixelated.
Well, I can see that from the amount of drinking.
And who's the famous old boy of St Cat's, Cambridge?
It's Jeremy Paxman.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a mate of yours, isn't he?
He is. Well, now up to a point. I mean, up to a point.
That sounded like a wobble.
I wouldn't want to presume to. He's a very, very good chap. In fact, he appears in a book I've written, which, quite by an extraordinary coincidence, I had. I had a very interesting encounter with Paxman. Well,
So no.
yeah, there you go.
He followed you around on the election trail.
That's right. Yeah.
But isn't it because he was writing his book? And his book seems to be about the pointlessness of politicians. So why do you think he chose to follow you around?
Lady Mansfield lay across the bed. The moonlight shimmering across her silken breasts. It's a bit dirty, this, isn't it, Boris?
Can I have a look at it?
Yeah, do.
I can't help noticing that on the cover it seems to say Jottings on the Stump,
Yes.
which is the subtitle. And yet when you turn to the inside it says Jottings from the Stump.
So I want to know the honest truth.
What's that?
They produced the jacket before I'd written the book. That's the
How did they know it was going to be you who's going to write it?
I must have forgotten what the title was.
I suppose at some stage we ought to get back to the original question. It is the Dean of St Catherine's College, Cambridge, complaining about his undergraduates' drunkenness and bad behaviour. A senior tutor at St Catherine's told The Guardian one female got so drunk there was vomit all around the toilet area. She obviously was too embarrassed to say genitals. The Telegraph reported a number of incidents of bad behaviour amongst students, including rudeness to cleaners and serving staff, or last year's graduates as they're known. Ian and Shazia. Wit-free headline for you. Unbelievable.
I think someone thought that an advert using the word Hun about the Germans was unacceptable. And the advertising standards actually said it's OK to call the Germans Huns.
Yes.
And previously in the week they'd said it's OK to call them crowds.
And they said it was all right to call the Pakistanis Pakis.
Did they say that as well?
Yeah.
Well, you use the expression Paki in your act, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's quite funny. The more you use it, the more it goes away.
Right. There's another serious point on this. That's 2 in 187 shows.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, you can sort of see...
point.
You can see the sort of terror or prejudice. The antidote to that is humour and comedy, you know. That is, I mean, God help us tonight. But,
It's always a good idea to analyse what you're doing.
well, if you're a brain surgeon, it is. And don't analyse what you're doing, for God's sake.
No.
It'll come down as reading out loud.
I wish.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, right. I'm so sorry.
Who was that? Ian Duncan Smith. Said you're fired, Boris.
I'm terribly sorry.
No, but you could have taken the call if you wanted to.
Did you say I can't speak now? I'm on television at the moment.
That was what I said.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, well covered. Excellent. So there were two... sorry to interrupt your call, but there were two advertisements. One, yes, which used the word Hun, and the other which used the word Kraut. We can have a look at the latter of those. It was ironic because it's for a German product.
Although the Germans calling themselves Sprouts. Is that the
yes.
point?
So how have the Mirror reacted?
The Mirror were furious, because that's usually what they do. is the Hun and Kraut jokes. So they wrote a very serious editorial about how this was disgraceful.
The Mirror actually said, we disagree and will not be using this obviously offensive term to describe our German friends. This is from the people who brought you Achtung, Surrender.
Fritz, yes, Fritz.
The German cultural attaché, Herr Tillmann Hankel, appearing on the Today programme, said that he was sick of constant references to the war and went on to make jokes about the English, which unfortunately for him went down like a Stuka over Stalingrad. This is not a uniquely German issue. It's standard practice to name the inhabitants of a country after what they eat, hence the French are frogs, the English are roast beef, and the Americans are fat. And finally, Paul and Boris, your revolving query. Anyone seen our MP?
Yeah, this is about, no, is this Sean Woodward, we thought it might be? The MP that's a Hartlepool, I think, who bought a house in Hartlepool, because he defected from the Tories to Labour, I seem to remember, and then, you know, to show that he was a Hartlepool man, he bought a house in Hartlepool for 60-odd grand or something like that, and then hasn't moved in at all.
Correct man, wrong constituency.
Oh, was it not Hartlepool?
No, it's not. That's
St
Mandelson.
Helens.
Yes, St Helens. This is a picture of Sean Woodward.
Yeah.
Is that his butler?
You can see why people voted for him. He's a cuddly little thing, isn't he?
That's the St Helens rugby mascot, is it? He did a big number about how he was a big rugby fan.
And how many times has he been back since the election?
None. Is it?
None
None,
times.
yeah, you're
None.
right. It's none.
Yeah.
None times. Boris says it can't be true.
That can't be true. I'm going to stick up for him.
Yeah.
That can't possibly be true.
He hasn't been back to the rugby club.
Oh,
He's
it's the
been back
rugby
to St
club.
Helens.
Yeah.
Because he has a house in St Helens. He has one in Oxfordshire, which looks like this. For some reason, he doesn't go back to St Helens to his house, which looks like this.
He bought that house, that one
Yes,
there.
that is his house, yes.
It's going to have a hard job moving his furniture in, isn't he?
You've been very outspoken about MPs, haven't you? You said it's absolutely crucial that they live in their constituency.
Yes.
Yes.
A bit easier saying that about Oxfordshire, though, isn't it?
It is.
But you were complaining that it was the most expensive and desirable location in England.
I wasn't complaining. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing about it.
Right.
It produces problems if you're, you know, trying
Buying
to buy
a
a house there on a not very enormous income. And that's why I'm appearing on this today.
To help pay your mortgage?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this why you've held down 2 jobs as well? Because I was going to ask you, are you a part-time
No, it's-
editor or part-time MP?
Well, very good question. I'm very glad you asked that question.
That's an MP's answer.
You're saying politics. Very, very good. I've devolved some of my functions.
I'm sorry to hear that.
As editor, I've devolved some of my functions as editor to some people who are actually here tonight. Like my secretary, I can't see her. Oh, there she is. There she is. She basically does most of it nowadays.
Right.
Does she get paid the editor's wage?
Yeah, well, no.
So what rare distinction does Sean Woodward revel in?
Well, he defected.
He was parachuted into a safe seat by both parties, by Labour and by the Tories when he was a Tory. He got given the seat of Witney in Oxfordshire, didn't he? Which is not something that anyone could accuse you of course. You weren't given a safe seat at all. It must have been a nightmare trying to persuade people
Ignore
who live in Henley upon Thames.
We don't have to talk to people like that.
I wasn't given a safe seat. No, not at all.
No.
Well, Henley?
I wasn't.
There's no such thing as a safe Tories.
No, well, no, there certainly isn't. And I intend to fight Henley extremely hard over the next
What happened
4
to
years.
the majority that Heseltine had? Did you gain or did you go down a bit?
I'm afraid to say that the majority fell. I held exactly the same share of the vote as Michael Heseltine. So there you go.
Do you think one of your problems might have been the election leaflets that you published, complaining of Labour's deteriorating pubic services?
I don't think those did us any substantial damage.
It is a revelation that Sean Woodward has yet to move into his terraced house in St Helens, preferring to represent his constituents from his £4 million house in London, or his £5 million house in Oxfordshire. During his election campaign in St Helens, Sean Woodward started off...
How much is your house worth?
I don't know, I haven't had it valued
Oh,
recently.
you must have done it. That's the sort of thing you do every morning.
Why would I get it valued unless I was going to sell it?
Just to know.
Hand on heart, I've never had it valued.
All right, then I'll offer you 20 quid for it. And I can't say fairer than that. Cash in hand, I can move in Monday.
What he doesn't realise, I only paid 10 for it. So, yes, I accept.
OK. Now, that's legally binding. Lawyers are watching the show. I'll bet 20 quid. Who's got 20? Have you got 20 quid? I'll make it up to you, Boris. You've got 20 quid on it. No, so I'll give you 20 quid. Oh, no, Boris has got 20 quid. Here we
Now,
are.
get it from your secretary.
Yeah. I'll give you that now. I'll trust you. It's not my money.
Yep. Excellent. Thank God I bought that toy house the other day.
I want that back, by the way.
Honestly, you won't see that 20 quid again, I promise you.
Well, I have to reclaim it from you, I'm afraid.
I was merely the go-between.
What transaction has happened here? Have I just bought your house?
Yes. You bought his house. It's a nice house, I tell you. You make a bit of a profit on it.
Which is a bit of a scandal, because you're supposed to live in South Oxfordshire. So, at this early stage of the conflict, unlike an American cruise missile, both teams are bang on target with 4 points each. Round 2 tests whether our panel's powers of deduction go much beyond 2 minus 1. Just one per team this week, Paul and Boris. Your fabled beauties are Martine McCutcheon, Anne Robinson, Harpo Marx and Ian Duncan Smith.
Anne Robinson was recently in the news, wasn't she? Because, amongst other things, it was revealed that she has writers writing those lines for her in The Weakest Link. Ian Duncan...
He doesn't have his lines.
Ian, no, it's all his own work, is it? Which one of the twins do you get on well with better? Ian or Duncan?
I'm a great admirer of both.
Yeah.
You put it that way?
Yeah. So Harpo Marx might be the odd one out because he was famously professionally mute. So does that make him the odd one out? And the others have had lines written for them?
Is the wrong answer.
It's about losing your voice, this, isn't it?
Oh, yes, because she lost her voice for My Fair Lady, didn't she, Martina?
Occasionally, not more than 2 or 3 times a week.
Yes.
No.
And Robinson lost to Boris.
And Ian and Duncan Smith, in one of those rare viral infections, both lost their voice.
Well, it's very catchy. You know, brothers would get that sort of thing.
It's something that actually Martine does every night, if you know the plot of what she's in at the moment.
Elocution.
Elocution lessons, yes.
Very good.
Oh, Ian Duncan Smith's had elocution lessons that make him sound less like a twit.
Yes, which means...
Would you ever do that, Boris?
I don't think that can possibly be the right answer.
Harpo Marx hasn't changed his voice for professional reasons.
Is the right answer, effectively, yes.
And what did Duncan Smith have done to his voice? This is an amazing allegation.
Well, according to a Tory source, he had elocution lessons.
I've never heard this before.
I know he had Japanese ancestry, so are you suggesting he used to speak with a slight Japanese accent? So, Mr. Blah. And he softened it.
Yes, no.
Yes, no?
Yes, no.
See, that's Duncan Smith.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's the trouble having two people as leader of the opposition. They can't agree with each other.
What is this thing about them being 2 people?
Ian and Duncan Smith. It's the first time identical twins have ever led a major Conservative party.
I see, it's a conceit.
Yes.
It's a conceit, Boris.
Do you know what his favourite catchphrase is, Ian Duncan Smith?
After you, Ian. No, after you, Duncan.
No, his favourite catchphrase, Boris, is they don't like it, they do not like it. Is that true, Boris?
True. You seem to know an awful lot about this. It's the first
Do
time
you not know very much about your leader? Isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And your occupation, Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson?
I'm a member of Parliament.
Well, we'll gloss over that one. Your specialist subject is Ian Duncan Smith, whether you like it or not, and your time starts now. What is Ian Duncan Smith?
Do I have to do this?
Yes.
You know,
What is Ian
I've never seen this on this show before.
What is Ian Duncan
I
Smith?
might like to ask the audience if I don't know.
You can phone a friend if you got one.
Friends just phone in.
Or ask your secretary.
And finally, Ian and Shazia, your ageing old cronies are Michael Heseltine, Jerry Adams, Donald Rumsfeld and Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, he's in Perda.
Is this to do with releasing a single?
That sounds dangerously modern, Ian.
They've all released a single, apart from Michael Jackson.
Have they all released a video?
A video. What was Michael Heseltine's latest video?
Fitness video.
Tarzan 3.
Michael Jackson's the odd one out, because he's the only one who's just been given an invisible exploding cigar. And he's lost half his face.
Is this books? Is it a book contract?
It's not books, no, though it has to do with things that make books.
Paper, trees.
Trees? Oh, tree hugging. They've all hugged trees. Jerry Adams did hug a tree once, didn't he?
Yes.
Heseltine's the odd one out, he's never hugged a tree.
He has.
Oh, no, he has
He
hugged
has,
a tree.
he
It's
has.
the American guy that hasn't hugged
No,
a
I
tree.
think it's Jackson hasn't hugged a tree.
Well, I have to give the points to Paul, because in fact it is the American guy, as he put it, who...
He's never hugged a tree. Heseltine's hugged a tree because he's got a great big garden, isn't he?
It's true, he's big on trees.
He is big on
Michael
trees, and he's
Heseltine,
big on the
yes.
causes of trees as well.
What do you do with your trees? You like to crush cars, don't you?
Absolutely true. Yes, I've forgotten that. Yes, I had a tree which fell down.
And crushed a car?
It did. 2 cars, actually. Yeah.
Were either of them yours?
No, they weren't. No, they weren't.
Tree was, car wasn't.
You have the position exactly.
Is there an insurance claim on this?
There is.
Do you want to
But
phone
I
a friend?
promise you, this tree was... There was absolutely nothing wrong with this tree. It had a huge amount of leaves growing off it.
Right.
There was no reason whatsoever to suppose it would suddenly fall down.
Is this the diseased ash at your London home? And Donald Rumsfeld, why is he the odd one out?
Because he doesn't hug trees, he doesn't like them.
Rumsfeld has bombed a lot of trees.
He likes to chainsaw them on his hacienda in New Mexico.
For any particular reason?
Relaxation. The answer is yes, that they all love trees, except Donald Rumsfeld. Michael Jackson is a keen tree climber, despite the inherent danger. In one incident, he suffered a broken nose when he slipped and it fell out of his pocket. Since Boris Johnson won Michael Heseltine's old parliamentary seat, many comparisons have been made between the two. Michael Heseltine has a shock of blonde hair, like Boris. Michael Heseltine was a magazine editor, like Boris. And Michael Heseltine was a towering presence in British politics. So at the end of that round, it's Ian and Shazia, who look destined for the chop, trailing as they do 8-4. But before the long-awaited piece that follows, the brief skirmish of our caption competition, Paul and Boris.
Is the man on the right saying, would the boy who threw that giant pen come to the front of the class?
Ian and Shazia.
Is
He's celebrating Halloween, that one in the middle.
the gentleman in the middle saying, excuse me, I ordered a ginger beer?
On which respectful note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Shazia Mirza, Paul Merton and Boris Johnson. And I leave you with news that in Afghanistan there's evidence that the Taliban may be beginning to lose their grip, as for the first time in years the Miss Kabul contest goes ahead. Unaware that the incident is being captured on film, a client issues last-minute instructions to an underworld hitman. And at a spectacular press launch in central London, there's a worrying start for the new company taking over from Railtrack. Good night.